Hey, it's Joel Mark Witt from Personality Hacker, coming to you from California, Los Angeles, California. We just finished a 5-day profiler training event, a live profiler training event here in Los Angeles. And in our last video, we showed you the first part of Melissa, who is a profiler training student and now our certification coach, doing a live profiling session with Sophia, a young woman on the stage, and they were talking about her personality type. We paused the last video, and now we're going to pick up at the end of that interview and talk about Sophia's personality type.
I'm assuming you guys got plenty of time to talk?
The whole time.
The whole time, the whole lunch.
Even when we went to the bathroom, we would just keep talking.
Between stalls, we still kept our talking.
I was like, are we doing this? We're doing it. Okay, I just follow your lead, Melissa.
All right, well, so I'm actually super curious to find out where your guys' conversation took you and to find out if part 2 looks different than the conclusion of part 1.
All right. So during lunch, I went through my little notebook that has 1,000 billion questions in it, and I explored heavily INFP and INFJ and INTJ because I heard a lot of intuition and I heard a lot of feeling, and the process that made her really say, yes, that's what I do, yes, in a very almost aggressive way. Nice aggressive, but aggressive way was perspectives. As I talked about the perspectives process with her, she was like, yes, that's what I do. And so she would even explain like, well, when sometimes I'll meet somebody who's an older person, and I'll think when they're a younger person, they were like this. And so we talked about how, and she's like, I'm reluctant to say that I absorb other people's emotions or that I know how other people are feeling because I would like to take their emotions and actually feel them, but I'm afraid to say that am I saying this all right? Is that accurate? Okay. I'm afraid to say that I really do that because, so it's almost like she's looking at herself from outer perspectives, like she's judging herself as if she's this person, like what would that person, and that they're like make-believe people, but what would all these make-believe people that I'm making up, what would all these perspectives think of me? What would me in 20 years think? When I was 8, what would I think of me? And that's a very perspectives way to be, and it's very unique. Tell us a little more about your twin and your relationship.
Yeah.
And also your family culture. You did it.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yes.
And so all of this is confounded by my own. I think this is why I thought it was challenging to type myself. I was like, my calibration is either completely on or completely off. But my suspicion is that I have a lot of FI users in my family, and that those values are really like that's like my role models, my parents. I think 4 out of 4 of them are FI users, yes. Even if it's not in the front of their car. And then Hannah and I have, this is the type of conversation we have all the time. Just why I think it felt so natural and why rapport with you is really easy.
Hannah is your twin?
Yes, thank you. And we have been together from I've been with her pretty much every second for 26 years, and it's hard for me to understand myself out of her context. And I, what is me and what is her? And that, and I think I might have said this in the first part too, that every difference between us feels very vast. And one of the differences that we discussed was that, I'm the fun twin and she's the serious twin, and how that tied into my own analysis of myself and my expectations for myself and how I would manipulate my own behavior in a social context.
I want to hear what your mom said when you were little.
Oh yes, this is a big thing. I've always remembered this. I say this to myself now and I say it to other people. This isn't any specific event, because this was said to me several times, but the message that I always get when we were having conflict, like whether it be between sisters or I was having stress at school, she'd be like, Sophie takes care of Sophie. Everyone else's problems are not your problems. And I really took that to heart, but it wasn't easy for me. That's not my that I think was coming up against a natural compulsion in me to care what everybody else thinks.
So when my husband says to me after he comes home from work and I've been taking care of the kids, sweetie, go running. Melissa, take care of Melissa. If he said that to me, I'd be like, thanks. And then I'd go running, and I'd be very happy to do it. To me, it's something you have to fight. It sounds like to not be taking care of other people. And if you fight taking care of other people, and then your family approves of you because they're like, yeah, you did it, you're taking care of yourself, then you're getting approval now, like, oh, yay. Right?
Yes.
So in order to do what would make everyone happy and fill everyone's needs, you have to not look like you're filling everyone's needs, because, is that right?
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah. You have to be careful not to fill too many needs because you want your family to see how FI you are, because they're FI. That's the way to be.
That was very clever of me.
Wasn't it? Absolutely.
Thanks for a difficult profiling session.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think INFJ is the type, the best fit type. And also, we did kind of some simulating, like when I explained the perspectives process, and I actually explained a lot of processes just as we were talking and just waiting to see you go like, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh. The perspectives process was very exciting. And there was also a purity of your standards. So when we're talking about, for example, a class, and she thought something was wrong in the way the teacher taught the class, and she thought you should have to work harder to get an A, and if you don't have to work very hard to get that A, it's very disturbing.
Yes.
And so she's like, fine, I'm just going to get a B. Almost like a statement. Like it's not okay to not be true, right? Yeah. And I would say somebody with an FI value might do that, and I can't and wouldn't want to speak for any other INTJs, but I'd be like, check it off, good, on to another class. Good, hallelujah, I don't have to work that hard in this one, because I might have other ones that are hard. But for you, there's a standard that should be met, and you're kind of like, it's a TI principle. Yeah.
When I was observing your profiling session, there was a couple things that you said based on questions that Melissa asked, which was, if I were to just stop this entire life and go to Cirque du Soleil, would that surprise you about me? Or would you be like, yeah, I kind of saw that coming? And you said a phrase that I thought was so fascinating, because it's a phrase I use all the time, which is, well, if I learned that information, then it would be a missing piece of the puzzle. And I would have the framework of the person, and then I would have that missing piece of the puzzle, and I'd put it into the framework of the person, and now I would understand why it made sense. Which to me was like classic NITI language. I was like, missing piece of the puzzle. I use that phrase constantly as a TI user. And so when I was observing your previous profiling session, there were these things that sort of stuck out. And that said, the entire first portion of your profiling session, the language was very introverted feeling, very FI. And when you guys came up and we talked about it a little bit before this session, the part two, the take two, when we were talking a little bit about INFJ, and I said the missing piece of information for me, honestly, in this profiling session to make it complete would be to talk to her twin. I need to know the influence your twin has had over you. I need to understand where the merging, sort of, because that was the big challenge, right? And yet, as soon as she said INFJ to you, I said, how's that feel? And you're like, pretty good. So that would make a complete for me, right? It would probably, what that would do is solve some mysteries. but I don't think it would be necessary to know your type. And I think Melissa has navigated to a pretty firm place in the conversations during lunch for INFJ. When I look at you and I go, you know what, it looks like an INFJ with an FI affectation. It looks like you're trying to simulate FI. That's what it looks like to me anyway, doesn't it? And so isn't that crazy that can happen? We get these messages from the world that we're supposed to be a specific way. And so in order to fulfill the obligations of others, we go, okay, well, I guess this is the thing I'm supposed to be. But that makes profiling really tough. And the fact that Melissa navigated through all of that to land on a best fit type that is resonating with you when you've been trying to figure out your type for a while, I think shows a very high level of acumen in profiling. So what do you guys think? INFJ, sound good? Yeah. Resonate with what you guys are seeing? Yeah, good job.
Good job.
You feel good, Sophia?
I do feel really good.
All right, thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Okay, so what you just saw Melissa do on stage with Sophia is what we teach students to do in our profiler training course. If you're interested in learning how to personality profile people in your life, whether it's a formal session like what you just saw, or just casually talking to people on an airplane, your friends and family, whoever, this is something we teach you to do in profiler training. So I would like to invite you to find out more information and possibly register for the next class that we open up. At profilertraining.com, you can find out more information and join the next class. Me and Antonia would love to see you there.